Clap your hands. Relationship goals. We're in part 2 of this series, and we're talking about some goals, godly goals that we should have for relationships. And it doesn't just have to be your marriage. It doesn't have to be your future marriage. It could be even, the relationships that you have with your family, with your children, with people that you work with. All of this in some way, shape, or form kind of touches all of us in a different way. Now, I want to warn you of something this morning. Today's message isn't easy. It's not an easy message. In fact, it's going to be very difficult. Let me tell you why it's going to be difficult. It's because you are going to have to apply this to your life in some way. All right? And it's going to have to be something that has purpose. You're going to have purpose in your steps and your decisions to make this a reality in your life. Now, I hope all of you have some goals for your life. I hope you have some good goals, right? Goals, maybe they're financial goals, maybe they're business goals, maybe they're personal goals. Hopefully we have good goals for our life. If you are ever on social media like Instagram or Facebook, you know what you might see? You might see this hashtag called couple goals or relationship goals. In fact, it's pretty normal to see that sort of thing if you're scrolling through your feed. In fact, there's 11 million posts with that tag in it, that hashtag. It's pretty crazy. Now, I don't recommend that you go and look through the hashtags because some of this stuff is a little like freaky deaky. Okay, so I definitely a little funky. I wouldn't recommend that you do it, but there is some pretty interesting stuff that people think should be relationship goals. All right, are you ready to see some of them? I got a couple of photos for you. Here's the first photo. Couple goal, relationship goal number 1. Now, there's a lot of things wrong with this picture, okay? You see, oh, they're all cuddly. They're cuddling on the couch or the love seat. They got Mr. and Mrs. Oh, so cute. But there's a problem. Do you see? There's 3 problems. Number 1 is the cat sitting on the man or the woman's lap. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2. Do you see the cat in the background, sitting near the TV? That's kind of weird, okay? And then here's the third thing. They're watching, I don't know what the heck they're watching. They're watching some cartoon. There's 3 things wrong there. You're thinking, Pastor Carey, what's wrong with you? What do you have against cats? I don't have anything against cats. I just hate them. Anyways, I'm a dog person, okay? So please forgive me. But on a side note, okay, I grew up, my grandmother, she had a cat. She was this French woman, and she had a cat. It was called Mion, which is basically meow in French, right? And this cat was just evil. I mean, it was like evil incarnate, okay? And it would, as soon as we would ever go into the house when we were kids, it would just run around the house and run away from us. And then it would just, like, if we ever fell asleep or something like that, it would pounce on top of our faces and be scratching us and mauling us. So if you all like cats, that's great. I don't. I hate them. Okay, anyways. All right, so that's a couple goal. I don't think so. Here's another one for you, all right? Here's another picture for you. What the heck is that? Seriously, you know what that is? An accident waiting to happen, okay? That is not a couple goal. Like, what is that? Like, okay, so, you're super strong. Like, have you ever seen this on Facebook where people try to recreate the pictures? It is hysterical, okay? This is not a couple goal. This is like fall on the rock and hit my face. Can you imagine trying to do that? It's like crazy, ridiculous, okay? All right, here's couples goal, right? Here's another one I saw on Instagram this week. What the heck is that? Seriously. Couples goals, like this is a couples goal. Like there's a lot of things wrong with this picture. Number 1, they're walking somewhere. You see the sharks? Right. There's sharks in that water. And they're like, hey, babe, I have a great idea. Can you imagine me coming up to you like we're walking through SeaWorld or something? And they're like, hey, babe, I got a great idea. Why don't you put on a skippy top, okay? And I see all these sharks over here. I'm going to dangle you off on the side, and you're going to do this pose. Woo! Like seriously, what is that? That's a couple goal? Like, I don't think so. That's not a couple goal. That's not something that I think is worth our while. I don't know about you, but I don't think so. Listen, God doesn't want us to set our goals as low as what we see on Instagram, obviously. He wants us to set the bar a little bit higher. He's got some better things in store for us. Now, what's interesting about all of this, and I said this last week, and I do want to say it again because it's really important. Listen, so many of us, and maybe this is you, right? So many of us, we're tired of what normal is. We're tired of what normal is. Because you know what normal is? Normal is fear and being afraid, heartache and pain, and broken relationships and brokenness and divorce and so on and so forth. And you know what? So many of us, we're tired of that. We want something better. We want something different. Now, here's the thing. God wants to give you that something that is better. He wants to give you something that is great. And so I think that it's good that we want these relationships. I think it's good. People want relationship goals. They want couple goals. And that's why this series is all about that. The 4 goals that we've been talking about are, first of all, we have them for you, 4 relationship goals, which is number 1 is to be Christ-centered. We talked about this last week. Like, listen, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that Christ is at the center of your life. All right, this week we're going to be talking about being mission-driven. We're going to talk about this more this morning. Next is devil kicking. You know what I mean? Listen. Our spouse or our boyfriend or our girlfriend, listen, people aren't the enemy. Okay? They're not the enemy. People are not the enemy. We have a real enemy, and his name is Satan. He wants to do everything that he can to wreck our marriages, our relationships, because, God has ordained them, obviously. And then last week we're going to be talking about being covenant keeping. Listen, we don't enter into a contract when we get married, okay? Maybe some of you do, but I don't. It's a covenant. We're covenant keeping people, okay? And so these are the kind of relationship goals that we should have. Each week we're going to be talking and diving deeper into each of them. So today is mission driven. Now, one of the things that I get to do often is marry people. Like as pastor, like people are like, hey, you're a pastor, could you marry us? Like, yeah, sure. And so what I normally do is like, well, let's do some premarital counseling. Let me give you some advice. And so, they'll come to church here, we'll go somewhere else, or I'll meet them at their house or wherever it is. And so we'll sit down. Now, I'm not a very good counselor, let me just say that. So if you're looking for marriage counseling, please don't come to me. I'll tell you why I'm not a good marriage counselor, okay? I'm a horrible listener, okay? I really am. Like, to be a counselor, you gotta be a good listener. I'm not always the best of listeners, okay? But anyway, so one of the things that I try to do, kind of see where they're at, is I try to talk them out of getting married. Like, I'll sit down with them and be like, so, you want to get married? I'm like, why? They're like, because we love each other. They're hanging on one another. They're all like kissing and loving. I'm like, really? I'm kind of looking at you. I'm like, I don't see it. I don't get it. Why are you with him? Or why are you with her? Like, you could have done a lot better. I'm trying to get them all. And all of a sudden, the blood drains out of their face. I'm like, oh. And there's always that spokesperson. You know what I'm talking about? The spokesperson, the one who always speaks up. And they're like, well, we're so, we're good together. You know who it is. If you don't know who it is, you probably are that spokesperson, by the way. Okay? All right. And you have all these different things. And because, then a lot of times they'll say we love each other. Then they'll say because he or she makes me happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me just say that. There's nothing wrong with that. But God doesn't want us to build our marriages on these feelings and just these emotions, all right? Because what that ends up being is something that's really shallow. Because here's what I'm learning. My emotions and my feelings towards my wife change. You know why they change? Because some days she's awesome and some days I'm pathetic, okay? So she's always awesome. I'm always the one that's wrong. You know what I mean? But the emotions and the feelings, they change from day to day. You see, a foundation, right? The foundation of a godly marriage isn't happiness, it's unity. This is so important. The foundation of a godly marriage isn't happiness. Happiness depends on our circumstances. It depends on what's happening in our lives. And there's many days where I am not happy, but God is good. And because we're united, then our marriage is good. Even though we might not be getting along or be the best of friends that particular day. So a godly marriage isn't built on that. It's built on unity. This comes from the book of Genesis. In Genesis chapter 1, the very beginning, when God was creating mankind, He's creating the earth, He's filling the earth, He gives Adam and Eve this really powerful statement. He shares this powerful statement with them. So if you have your programs, if you have a Bible or a phone app, you can follow along. We'll put it up on the screen behind me. It's Genesis 1, 27 through 28. Here's what God says. So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, he created them. Remember, we dived into this a little bit last week if you were with us. Then it says that God blessed them, and he said to them, notice what he says. He says, be fruitful. You know what that means? Have babies, all right? Get together, get intimate, all right? And then he says, increase in number. In case you don't know what it is that I'm trying to say to you, okay? I want to make it clear, okay? Increase in number. Then he says, fill the earth, and then subdue it. Yes, he says, have sex. Sex is good within marriage, okay? So he definitely does say that. All right, so that's what he says here. And what is God saying? Hey, listen, this is the purpose. This is the mission that I have for you. I want you to multiply. I want you to expand. I want you to conquer. I want you to create together. And this is his mission for the first couple, for this first marriage that we see in the Bible. And so here's what I'm kind of picking up on from God. If you're married, or if you're in a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, listen, and you're thinking about getting married, that sort of thing, listen. Marriage, right? In marriage, we need each other to accomplish the purposes that God has for us. Like, it's good. Remember, it's not good. God said to Adam that you're alone. It's not good that man's alone. So I'm going to give you a helpmate. I'm going to give you a helper, someone to come alongside of you. You see, when you come together and when we get together in marriage, we become a team. We become partners. We become a duo, a squad. We become with a mission. Now, in Genesis 2:24, God says this, or the Bible says this. It says this. This explains why a man leaves his father and his mother and is joined to his wife. And it says the two, what are they? United into one. The two become one. Again, part of the purpose and mission that God has for us. But you see, what God seeks to unite, there is this other guy. He's a sneaky little serpent. This guy, the devil, Satan, you know what he schemes to do? He schemes to divide. He schemes to divide. Adam and Eve, they're in the garden. Everything is good. I mean, God's given them all this. They're in the Garden of Eden. There's all these fruit trees. There's all this stuff and vegetation. God's like, listen, you can have of everything. But there's this one tree. And this one tree in the middle of the garden, this tree, right? This tree of knowledge of good and evil. Listen, don't eat of that tree. That tree, listen, when you do that, you're going to die, okay? Don't do that. What happens? Life is perfect. Everything's fulfilled. They're blessed. They're naked. Hello, life is good. There's no it wasn't awkward. It wasn't inappropriate. It was a beautiful thing. And then there's this enemy. This enemy of God, this enemy of Adam and Eve. Why is Satan the enemy of marriage? Because God instituted marriage, because it's an ordained thing. And so what does he seek to do? He seeks to disrupt their relationship. He wants to distract their mission. He wants to destroy their unity. You know what? The devil hasn't changed his tricks one bit at all. And if you're married, you know what he's going to seek to do? He wants to disrupt your relationship with God. He wants to distract you from the mission that he has put in your hearts. And he ultimately wants to destroy the unity that God says that's supposed to be there. So what does Satan do? Well, the first thing that he does is he separates Eve. He's like, psst, psst, psst. Or maybe it's, hiss. Eve, come here. Come here. Did God really say? Did God really say that you can't eat of this tree? Did God really? What is he doing here? Satan, the first thing he does is he questions God. He questions his authority. Did God really mean that? And so she starts to listen. Oh, look at him. He's like, oh, look how wonderful this fruit is. Why don't you just eat it? Why don't you just take it? Why don't you just have it for yourself? Eve, this would be good. And basically what Satan does as he's tempting her, what he says to her basically is that, listen, what you want is what you don't have. What you want is what you don't have. That's when you'll truly be satisfied. So she believes this lie. So she takes what she doesn't have, thinking that it's going to satisfy her. And in the end, what does she find out? What does Adam find out too? that they were already fulfilled, that they were already had everything that they need. And in a moment, just this simple moment of all the things that they could do was eating, right? Who would think that eating could be so bad for you? They eat, and because of that, God's sentence of death was on them. Now everything had changed. Before, being naked was a blissful thing. They weren't worried or concerned about it. It wasn't a bad thing. But now they were filled with shame and they were filled with guilt. So they sewed together fig leaves or whatever it was, and they cover themselves and they hide, because that's how much shame is there. Because you see, the enemy tricked them. The enemy deceived them. Now, what's interesting to me is that God comes on the scene. He comes walking through the garden. He's like, Adam, where are you? Adam, are you over here? And it's not like God doesn't know where he is, but I love this about God. He is so gentle. He's so good to us. Even though he knew what had happened, he wants a relationship with Adam and with Eve. Is he okay with it? No, he's not okay with what has happened, but he still loves them. He still cares for them. Where are you? Where are you? And so Adam, I just picture him popping up out of the bushes. Here I am, Lord. Yes, what do you want? What do you want? He's kind of like trying to stay down in the bush. Okay. Yes, Lord. And I just pick, what's going on here? The Lord says, what's going on? And so you know what Adam does? We do this too. He blames Eve and he blames God. You know what he says? God, this woman that you gave me made me do it. It's all your fault. That's typical guy, by the way. That's typical guy. That's every guy I know, okay? Oh, yes, it's my wife's fault. It's all her fault. It's her fault. It's her fault over there, right? Or, and it's your fault, and that's what Adam does. And Eve, what she does? She's like, it's that serpent. It's that serpent. That's what we do. We like to blame. And so this serpent, obviously, he didn't have a leg to stand on. Hashtag dad joke, okay? Hashtag, wanted to use that for a long time. Hashtag, you all missed that dad joke. Okay, anyways, so we're going to move on, right? So that's what happens. So what God wanted to unite there, Satan wanted to divide. Now, there's this interesting passage in the book of Amos. Amos is one of the prophets of God. He's in the Old Testament. In Amos chapter 3, verse number 3, there's this really interesting question that he records there. He says, can two people walk together without agreeing on a direction? Think about that, can you? Can you come up here and help me for a second? I know you, Larry, right? There's my lovely wife, right? So you don't have to say anything, just come over here. So she wants to go, right? She wants to go that way. I want to go this way. What's going to happen? Ready? Let's go. It's not going to work. We can't. I want to go this way. She's like, no, I want to go that way. Right? We're going in two different directions. You can sit down. Thank you.
You're going to go that way.
Yeah, I'm going to go that way, right? Happy wife, happy life.
Oh, what way?
I don't know about that one. Happy God, then happy wife, then happy husband. Okay. We want to have a Christ-centered life, but listen, we can't walk in two different directions. You see, the word divide, right? That first part of the word divide, right? It means two. It means that there's two, and then what? Two visions. If we have two different visions, if we're trying to go in two different directions, can we accomplish the purpose or the mission that God has for us? No, we can't, because we're fighting each other. Right? So what do we have to do? We have to walk with one another. We have to go with each other. You see, where there is no vision, if we don't have the vision of God in our life, the Bible says in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, people are going to perish. Where there's no direction, where there's no guidance, we're going to perish. And so we're gonna be heading for disaster. There's going to be problems. There's going to be all sorts of things. So what's your marriage about? I want you to think about that this morning. What's your marriage about? I know, maybe it hasn't been all the right things. What's your relationship with your boyfriend or your girlfriend about? Has it been, he's so handsome, or she's so beautiful. Oh yeah, we like, all of these things, right? You see, one of the greatest tragedies in marriage is that when two people are together but they're not united. That's a great tragedy. I mean, that's a marriage that ultimately, if things aren't put back on course, is going to have a really bumpy road. It's going to be very difficult. I'm not saying that the marriage won't last. I'm not going to say that, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to fulfill the purposes that and the mission that God has for your marriage. That's for sure. So one of the things that I've been kind of doing as I've been thinking about this series, thinking about marriage, is I've been looking at different people. And one of my favorite couples in the Bible they're pretty obscure. They're not like the people that you would normally think of. They're not the ones that, maybe you think of like Adam and Eve. All right, they're not my favorite, okay? They're cool. Interesting story. Love to tell the story, but they're not my favorite. Or maybe it's, maybe you're thinking, oh yeah, maybe he likes Jacob and Rachel. That's a really neat story, but no, not really Jacob. His sons. Then you got like Ruth and Boaz. They're like a number 3 or number 2. They're close. They're a pretty cool couple. Then everybody's like, it's gotta be Mary and Joseph. No, it's not them either, okay? It's not Mary and Joseph. And then, maybe you're thinking, well, Solomon had too many wives. I'm just gonna say that. Like, I don't even know how he did it. I mean, seriously, I probably would have like committed suicide. I'm like, it's hard enough with one. Like, seriously, man, what were you thinking? We're thinking with our head, that's for sure. That's what I think. So that would have been crazy, you know what I mean? I can't imagine trying to, oh my goodness. Anyways, we'll just leave it at that. That's crazy. No, my favorite couple in the Bible is only mentioned 6 times. And they are never, ever mentioned without the other person. And you know why? I think because God wants to show us that they were united. United in their mission, united in what it was that God had for them. What made them strong? What makes them Christ-centered? What makes them mission-driven? Well, you'll see. Let me share with you who it is. They are Priscilla and Aquila. All right, they're 2, I believe, most likely of Paul. Remember the Apostle Paul? They're probably 2 of the people that he ministered to, who he led into a relationship with Jesus. And I want to share with you Romans chapter 16 this morning, verses 3 and 5. And I just want you to see here some pretty awesome stuff about them. So it says this in verse number 3. Give my greetings, Paul says, to Priscilla and Aquila. He really cares about them. He loves them. Like he said, they're important to him. He says, what does he say? He says, they've been my co-workers in the ministry of Christ Jesus. Verse number 4 says, in fact, they once risked their lives for me. And he says, I'm so thankful to them, and so are all the Gentile churches. Verse number 5. It says, and give also my greetings to the church that meets in their home. And these people are just like, it's amazing how united they are in the mission that God has given to them. What makes them, in my mind, like super duper awesome couple? I'll tell you what makes them pretty awesome in my mind. Number 1, they supported the ministry of Paul. They were there for them. They saw the value. They saw what God was doing in Paul's life. And they're like, we want to get on board with this. We want to like attach ourselves to Paul because God's doing something amazing. So we want to help him and be there for him. And so I picture them cooking food and meals and having people to their house and say, Paul, did you talk to anybody? You meet anybody today? Hey, you could bring them to our house. It'll be awesome. And we'll love on them too. And so they're doing all of that. Not only that, but they also risk their lives for him. So obviously, I mean, we know about Paul. I mean, like he was always running from the government, running from different people and the Judaizers and so on and so forth. And I mean, so many times he was beaten, he was shipwrecked, he was, he was thrown in jail. I mean, people were after him, because he was causing a ruckus. And so they risked their lives to protect him and keep him safe because they're like, this guy, there's something about him. It's just, like God's doing something through him. We got to help him. We got to help him in this work. And so they do that. They risk their lives for him. You know what else they did? They had a discovery group in their home. Do you see that right there? The church that meets in their home, they had a discovery group. They have Bible study in their house, and they're inviting people over, and they're like, let me tell you about what God has done. Let me tell you about the stories about Jesus and how he's resurrected from the dead and how he's alive, and he's changed my life. And there's some other people, you got to come. And so they're doing this. They have a discovery group in their home. And we see just through these few verses that they are Christ-centered and mission-driven. Now, I know some of you are thinking, oh, I want to be mission-driven, Pastor Jerry, but I'm not married yet. I'm not there yet. How does this apply to me? Listen, last week we said, listen, if you want, right, a life that is Christ-centered, then you need to start living a Christ-centered life today. If you want this in the future, you got to start living it today. So in other words, let me just put this in other words for you. Listen, if you want a God-honoring, mission-driven marriage tomorrow, or years from now, or months from now, whatever it may be, then you need to live a God-honoring marriage that's mission-driven today. That needs to be your focus.
Amen.
You know, Andy Stanley, he tells this story about a girl that he knew. And she was from a Christian home. She was a follower of Jesus. And so she goes off to college. You know, in a lot of colleges, you know what they have, right? They have fraternities and sororities. And so she joined a sorority. Now, you know, there's all these, I don't know, fraternities I know more about than sororities, right? But, you know, there's different things you got to do to get in, and so she does that. And one of the things, you know, sorority sisters are doing, they go to the parties, right? They do the party scene, so she goes to the parties. And she's never had alcohol or never had anything like that before, and there's a keg there, but somebody offers her a beer. And she sees all of her sorority sisters there, and they're all doing it, and obviously the peer pressure is kind of heavy, so she, you know, has that beer. And before long, she continues to go to the parties, and she continues to have the beers, and you know, before long, somebody offers her something else, a little stronger. Drug. I don't know what the drug of choice was, but officers drugs, and she does, you know, before you know it, kind of keeps on progressing, and she makes a mistake with a guy, and she sleeps with the guy, and then she continues to go to the party scene. She's like, well, I've already messed up, so who cares? So she sleeps with a bunch of different guys. And this is kind of her life. And then one day, Andy tells the story, he says, she met the guy that she had been praying for her entire life, like a godly man, a leader. She's like, this is the guy that I've been waiting for. So she goes home and she tells her mom, and her mom's a believer, and her mom says something very powerful to her, tells her in a really loving, gentle kind of way, but this is what she says to her daughter. She says, a guy like that is not looking for a girl like you. You see, what you and I need to do is we need to become the person you are looking for is looking for. Let me say it again because it's really true. We need to become the person you are looking for is looking for today. You see, I said this last week, I'm going to say it this week, and I'm probably going to say it next week too. Listen, we don't build a life of righteousness in the future on a foundation of sin today. We don't do that. It doesn't work that way. All we're doing, if we build our lives on sin today, all we're doing is setting ourselves up for normal, for heartache and for pain and for loneliness and betrayal and so on and so forth. Fill in the blank. That's what we're doing. We're setting ourselves up to fail. So we have to build a life of righteousness today for the tomorrow that we want. Now, like, oh, Pastor Jerry, that's hard. Well, how do I do that? How do I become mission driven? How do I focus on the things of God? How do we do that? This is what you do, okay? You set your gaze, you set your sights on Jesus, and you go. You're walking. Don't look to the side. Just keep looking at God, and you keep going. All right. Now, what you do is you get the hang of this, and you're following God, right? You keep every now and then. This is what you do, and as you're going forward on your mission with God, you look to the side real quick. Okay, nobody there. Keep going. Look to the side. Look, see if anybody's over there. Oh, there's a guy over there. Oh, there's a girl over there. Okay. Just check him out. Just go, keep going. Oh, yeah, he's kind of cute. Keep focused on God. Keep going. Oh, he's still there. Oh, she's still over there. Then you start, okay, start moving. There you go. You start, but you're both going forward, right? You keep moving. And then you kind of, you keep going forward in your vision, in the mission, in the vision that God has for your life. And He will, right? If this is His desire and your desire, He will bring that person alongside of you, and then you can be going together. It's a pretty amazing thing. And then you can be like me, like Aaron, when we were saying, come, let us glorify the Lord together. Let us exalt His name. Right? And she's like, oh yeah. No, I didn't really say that. Anyways, But anyways, you get the point. You get the idea, right? And then they will. And then you both have this mission. You both kind of you're going in the same direction. You're heading towards the same place. And you have similar goals, similar missions, similar vision that God has given to you. And then you find that person, then you can go forward as you're building your life on a foundation of righteousness. Then you will be building, if you're both doing that, then you will be building the future. That isn't normal. That is very different. Won't be easy. I'm not going to say that it's not going to be easy, that there are going to be moments of pain. There's not going to be moments of things that are difficult. There will be, but it will be different. It will be different. So I want to ask you this question. What is your mission? What is your mission? You notice I really haven't said a whole lot about the mission. You know why? That's the hard part. I can't tell you what your mission is. I'm not God. But if you're married or you're dating, maybe you would start serving together. Maybe, you would say, what can we do together? How can we glorify God together? What are you passionate about? What am I passionate about? And you find something. Maybe, you open, maybe if you're married, you open up your home and have a discovery group there. Or maybe, you get involved and you're at the door and you're greeting people there. Or maybe, you serve with the kids in the back, whatever it may be, right? There's all different ways. And it could be broader than that, too. It could be bigger than that. It doesn't have to be in the church. Because sometimes God has given some of us a mission that is way bigger than this small locale, but something bigger and grander for the world. Maybe He's put that in your heart. And maybe He's put that in your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend's heart. And you need to run after that. We want to send you. We want to help you to do that. Fulfill that. Maybe that bigger thing, that broader mission that God has put on you. Now I know some of you are thinking, well, I don't really know. What is that? Here, there's only two things that unite people. There's two things. You want to know what they are? A common enemy and a common mission. That's it. Have you ever noticed that before? You ever talking to some of your friends and they're like, oh, can you believe so and so? I don't know what your feelings are about our president, okay? But we see this happen all the time. I hate Trump. And you're like, oh, you hate Trump too? Oh, I hate him more. And we're like, oh yeah, can you believe that? And all of a sudden, you weren't even friends, and now you're like the best of friends because you all hate Trump, right? And vice versa. Maybe you're like, I love Trump. I can't believe what he's doing. He's like, you love Trump? I thought everybody hated Trump. And you're like, no, I love him. And and so on and so forth. Then all of a sudden, you're like the best of friends, right? Because we love the same things, or we hate the same things. Now, if you're in a relationship, think about this. What do you both love? What are you both passionate about? Hopefully you're passionate about God, first and foremost, right? But what else? What do you both hate? What do you both hate? When you begin to answer that question, you'll begin to see the mission that God has given to you. Maybe you love kids. Maybe you love kids and you hate it that there are kids out there today who don't have a family. There are orphans like today. There are still orphans. There are still kids that are being left by their parents who don't have any families, and you hate that. You and your spouse or you and your boyfriend, you're like, we hate this. This is bad. And so what do? You decide, I'm going to do something about this. And so in a righteous way, a way that's going to please God, you know what? And maybe you're married and you're like, you know what? We're gonna foster kids. Because we love kids and we hate it that kids don't have families. So we're going to be a foster parent. And so maybe that's the mission that God has given to you. Something that you love and that you hate. Maybe, you know what? You love being financially free because you know what? You were in bondage to debt for so much of your life. And then God brought some people into your life and now you are debt free. Now there is nothing like that in your life. And you know what? You and your significant other, you're like, you know what? We need to do something to help people. We want to help people get out of debt because we hate what debt does to people. And so you start a financial peace class at church, or you start something in your community, and you're helping people, and you're showing them that there is hope, that there can be financial freedom, there can be financial deliverance. And so you do that, so you have this mission together. Or maybe you love to cook. You love to cook, you love hospitality, and you would love just kind of doting on people, having people over to your house. And so you decide, you know what? we want to do this, we got to make meals together. And so you find out, you know what we hate? We hate it when people are alone. We hate that there's people who eat meals all by themselves every single day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so you go and you serve, you go to a soup kitchen, and you cook meals for people there. Or you find people in your community or even in maybe at church here and you're like, we're not going to let this be the norm. God's given us a mission that's bigger than ourselves. And so we're going to help them. We don't want them to be alone, so we're going to cook these meals for them. Whatever it may be. I want to tell you a story of a couple that I know who found their mission. Their names are Seth and Pam. And they're from the area. They're just north of Monticello. Seth and Pam are dear friends of Aaron and myself. And they had a child a number of years ago. Well, almost did. She carried the child 9 months. And before her due date, the child passed away. The child died. Nathaniel Jensen. And it was a great tragedy in their life. But because they both love God, because they both love children, because they both hated what had happened to them and realized that there were other parents just like them, they decided that instead of feeling bad for themselves, they decided that they would live their life on mission in a very different way. They started what's known as the R Project. The R Project is basically a project that they've developed where they're providing help, counseling to those families who have been through the exact same thing. What they're doing is that they're giving these parents, they're giving these people hope. Because you know what? When they go through that, now, Seth and Pam, they have Jesus in their life. Right? They got hope. And so they wanted to share this with those. Because if you don't have Jesus in your life and you're trying to go through something like this, it can be dark. It can be real hard. And they understood that. And so they hated that people just felt like God had abandoned them. That God didn't care for them. That there's so many thoughts that go through your mind when you're dealing with something like this. And so they started the R Project just for that. Love and hate. What's the mission that God has for you? You see, the interesting thing is that unity doesn't mean that you have to be the same. Can I just say that? I want to say that. I'm going to say it. I just did. Hello? Unity doesn't mean that you have to be the same. Doesn't mean that you're the same. Unity means that you are together. That's what it means, that you're together. You know what, Erin has told me, like, she has a passion for inner city work. I don't have a passion for inner city work. And one day she said she wants to really minister there and do lots of things like the city of Newburgh. Like, her heart breaks for her all the time. And when that day comes where she's ready to, like, take that step, you know what? Even though it's different, what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage her, I'm going to lift her up, and I'm going to let her do that. I'm going to support her, even though it's not, even though we're different, even though we have different goals sometimes in life as married couples. Sometimes there's different goals that we have. Not that we're going in different directions, because God is burning us in different ways, but we're going to be the same. We're going to be united. I'm going to support her, and we're going to go do it together. I'm going to let her do it all, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to praise God, and I'm going to say, look, wow, look what God has done through you. Unity doesn't mean that you're the same. It just means that you're together. Listen, don't just share an address, folks. Don't just have a sex life together. Don't just be roommates because the kids run your life. Don't just love the same sports team. Don't just love certain things. Listen, be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, covenant-keeping people. What does God want you to be? He wants you to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, covenant people. Do you want to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, covenant people? Do you want to be that? I hope you do. If you do, why don't you say it with me? Listen, I'm going to be, say it with me, I'm going to be Christ-centered, mission driven, devil kicking, covenant keeping people. Listen, we can be either driven by our problems or driven by His purpose. We can focus on what we want, or we can focus on what God's want. We can pursue our own desires, or we can pursue His destiny. If you're married, if you're going to get married, why are you going to do it? Why are you married? Because I want to honor God. Hopefully that's right. You've come to that conclusion today, that I want to honor God. Here's something neat. Do me a favor, would you? Would you write on your programs the word united? Write on your program for me the word united. U-N-I-T-E-D. U-N-I-T-E-D. United. Hopefully you know how to spell it. Did you write it out? Now, do you know what happens if you get the I out of place? If you put the I after the T, you know what you get? U-N-T-I-E-D. Untied. You see, you know what happens when I kind of take charge of my life? You know what happens when I take charge of my marriage? You know what happens when I get involved? I get untied. But when God has His right place in my heart and I am Christ-centered, I am united with my wife. But it's when I get out of place that everything gets untied. What do you love? What do you hate? Figure that out. Figure out what your mission is. And glorify the Lord. So now, remember I said that the message was going to be hard, right? That's it. I'm not going to share with you something emotional. I'm not going to share with you another story. I'm not even going to tell you what you need to do, because here's the thing, I don't know what you need to do. You got to figure it out. But I am going to pray with you. I'm going to pray for you. And we're going to sing songs before we go. Father, we just come before you this morning, and we ask, God, that you would help us to be mission-driven people. This is a worthwhile relationship goal that we need to have. For our future selves, or for those of us who are married or in relationships now, God, that's what we need. Help us, God. Guide us and direct us. Help us, God, show us what it is that we love. Show us what it is that we hate. And God, please, this week, I pray that for each person here, if they're not sure about what their mission is, if they're not sure what the vision that you have for their life is, God, I pray that you would show it to them. We ask this in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.